Star Wars 7x7, episode 2167. Today, our review of Queen's Peril, the new novel by E.K. Johnston that details the life of Queen Amidala in the days before and during the Trade Federation invasion as depicted in The Phantom Menace. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, Queen's Peril is the third Star Wars novel to be written by E.K. Johnston. Her first one was the Ahsoka novel, second one was the first of the Padme novels, which would be Queen's Shadow, and now we have Queen's Peril, which is a prequel to Queen's Shadow, and also a prequel of sorts to The Phantom Menace, as 2/3 of the book takes place in the time period prior to The Phantom Menace, and the last third of it goes through and runs concurrently with that movie. And I will say right off the top that it's a fun read, it's a breezy read, it goes very quickly, and at the same time, not a heck of a lot happens, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the novel's basic purpose is to depict the selection of the handmaidens and talk about how they all came to bond together with Padme. There are references to training, but we don't really get to see a lot of it. There are references to their particular skill sets and how they are evolving, but that doesn't really get to be detailed so much as just their general relationship building, along with a bit of world building and a bit of, trade dispute buildup and, a couple of other diplomatic events, if you will. I would say that the novel's strengths are definitely in the depictions and characterizations, not only of Padme and of her handmaidens, but also of Captain Panaka as well. There's really kind of a tragic history, it feels like, with the relationship between Padme and Panaka, and that was touched on a bit in Queen's Shadow, and we know more of that also from other Star Wars stories as well. So I think even Leia, Princess of Alderaan, touches on that, for that matter. And in addition to the main thrust of the story, there's something fun that Queen's Peril does as well. It has little interludes with other characters here and there. It's not as neatly separated out, if you will, as the interludes that appeared in the Aftermath trilogy of novels by Chuck Wendig, where it was, really set aside as its own little mini chapter in between chapters. No, some of these interludes that happen in Queen's Peril are actually integrated into existing chapters, and the scene basically suddenly shifts into these other situations with other characters that will be very familiar to you, and we will talk about those in future episodes of the show here. So I have to be perfectly honest. In reading the novel, like I said at the top, I did enjoy it. It's a fun read, it's a breezy read, but at the same time, nothing really significant happens in the novel. Nothing of tremendous import as far as Star Wars storytelling goes. And so, it makes you wonder exactly, what the motivation is for putting this novel out into the marketplace. And, as I see it, first of all, Padme is a popular character. The handmaidens, popular characters. Queen Shadow must have done well enough that they said, hey, let's keep up with this, let's learn more. So there's definitely that. There's a completist value to it, if you will. Like, I have questions about the handmaidens and about how they came to be and what their specialties are. And knowing that there is this incredible depth and complexity to their skill set and their relationship with Padme and their service to Naboo, that was fun to see explored in this novel. And I also think that it's remarkable simply for the fact that it presents a story where multiple teenage girls are involved in the events of galactic consequence. And that ultimately is the thing I think is most remarkable, because there should be a place for stories like this in the Star Wars galaxy. I only wish that it had been a story that had its own consequence, if you will, that it didn't necessarily have to rely on the Phantom Menace as part of its storytelling. I feel like Queen's Shadow stood on its own in that sense a little bit better than Queen's Peril does, but There is a lot to recommend Queen's Peril, especially if you are a Padme fan, especially if you are a fan of the handmaidens and you would like to know their origin stories. Well, then this is going to be a book for you. We're going to talk about other specific topics related to Queen's Peril and the characters that you'll meet in there in subsequent episodes of the show, but that is going to do it for today's episode of the show. Thank you so much for joining me for it. As always, please keep yourselves and your loved ones and your communities safe. Remember that Black Lives Matter, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
This is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.